For as long as I can remember, I have had a fascination and a love with the country of Ireland. So it's March, it was St. Paddy's last week, and here I am still talking about Ireland. I won't stop. I will keep talking about it all year. I became fascinated when I found out early on. You know, you get asked early on when you're, in third and fourth grade, hey, what are you? Even white people get that question because if we're Polish or we're German or whatever, and I asked my family, I said, what are we? They go, yeah, we're kind of Irish. And I took that and I've run with it my entire life. I've just kept going with it. I have read a lot of Irish literature. I play Gaelic football and hurling, which are the national sports of Ireland. I have produced Irish plays. I have a green and white and orange tattoo on my body and another one on the back of my leg that is the symbol for the National Theatre of Ireland. I'm slightly obsessed, in case you didn't get that. And so in my senior year of college, a course offering came up that was just called James Joyce. That was the entire title of the class, and there was like a 2-line description that I didn't really read because I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. James Joyce is a brilliant Irish novelist. I'm just going to do this. Now, we didn't spend the whole semester reading the body of work of James Joyce. It took us an entire semester just to read Ulysses. His tome, Joyce's seminal work about our friend, my friend and yours, Leopold Bloom, who spends a day walking through Dublin and just experiencing his life. And I'm reading through this book. We didn't have class in a classroom. There were only 6 of us in the class, so we just did it in the English department conference room. We read a chapter a week, and it was the most grueling, most difficult class I've ever taken, but somehow between the 6 of us, we figured out what the hell happened in this book. And I read a chapter of this book while I was on the plane to Ireland. It was the first time I was going. I had never been to Ireland before at 22, and it was my first time going by myself. I was going to do research for my history thesis, which I was writing about the development of the Gaelic Athletic Association versus the development of the Australian Football Association, which if you want to talk for the next 3 hours about something, come talk to me later. So I was going to do research on this, and one day after I had spent the entire day in the basement of a sports stadium in Dublin going through all their archives from the 1850s and 60s, I wanted to go and watch a hurling match. I heard that there was like a national semifinal for the college hurling matches going on, maybe a 20-minute walk that way. Well, I walked maybe 6 minutes that way, and then I'm sure I veered off that way, and then I'm sure I went this way, and then somehow I ended up in a big wide circle and had no fucking idea where I was. But that's okay, because halfway through this walk, I started realizing that I was having a Bloomsday. I was Leo Bloom. I was wandering through the streets of Dublin with no real idea where the heck I was going, and I was just okay with that. And I'm walking along this wee little street that's just sort of bending around, and there's, 400-year-old walls on the side, and I see this little sign for a tiny little chapel called Sandymount Chapel. And I think, wow, I've seen that name before, but it must have been, in something I've read over the last 20 years. And I'm walking the street and oh, Sandymount Chapel. Leo runs into Sandymount Chapel, and if Sandymount Chapel is there, that means, and I turn, and in front of me is the Irish Sea, is Sandymount Strand. Now, there's a chapter in the book that I read on the plane on the way to Ireland where Leo takes off his shoes, he steps onto Sandymount Strand, and he walks, closes his eyes, and he walks toward the sea. Now, when it's high tide, the water comes right up to the road. When it's low tide, it's a half a mile out or more. So you can just take your shoes off and walk. And I did. I closed my eyes, and I wrote a story in my head the way that Leo did. I don't know what I wrote in that story in my head, I have no idea. But as I was walking for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, could have been 3 hours, I don't know. I was in complete darkness and completely in my own head. I hear a little murmur of cheers coming off in the distance. My eyes are closed, and I turn and I follow this, and the sand is wet on my feet, and I can feel the water, and then the sand starts to get a bit drier, and I can start to feel grass, and the murmur of the crowd, of the yelling, is getting louder and louder and louder, and suddenly I'm scraping my feet in bushes, and my eyes are still closed, and I finally think, I'm about to run into a road or something, I should open my eyes, and I open my eyes as the crowd is roaring, and there's the hurling match I was looking for the whole time. I don't believe in fate or gods or things like that, but that day, Leo took me where I needed to go. Thank you.